The topic for tonight is Wi-Fi in schools. And when we read what's recently come out in the international media, April 23rd, for example, out of the UK, danger on the airwaves, is the Wi-Fi revolution, a health time bomb. It talks about, in every coffee shop and every school being Wi-Fi access and what this is doing to our health. Scientists demanding inquiry over Wi-Fi. The research hasn't been done. We cannot assume that wireless networks have no effects. Another headline from The Independent on Sunday. So there's a dramatic public uproar right now occurring about this concept of Wi-Fi in schools. The first question I would like to start with is, what is your take on the usage of Wi-Fi in schools, and what do you see, before we jump into major details, what do you see kind of on a 30,000-foot bird's eye view level being the key issues as it relates to Wi-Fi usage in schools?
Well, Alfred, the first thing is that, we understand now so well what the mechanism of harm is from the information-carrying radio waves, and Wi-Fi, of course, emits information-carrying radio waves, so that we have the same broad range of health concerns with Wi-Fi that we do with cell phones and other types of wireless technology. The most interesting opportunity with the Wi-Fi problem is that with cell phones and cell phone base stations, those are two areas that the FCC in the United States has jurisdiction over, and two areas where the Food and Drug Administration gave the cell phone industry a variance or a pass in terms of requiring pre-market testing. So cell phones were not pre-market tested prior to going into commerce, and neither were wireless base stations. However, Wi-Fi is a different type of issue, because neither the FCC nor the FDA have taken jurisdiction over Wi-Fi, so that we really are in a situation where if parents in schools and if other concerned parties make a stand, there is no regulatory authority that will keep Wi-Fi from being tested. We made a huge mistake with cell phones by not testing them prior to market. We don't have to make the same mistake with Wi-Fi, although right now it seems as though around the world most schools are going in that direction.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the conditions that we are suspecting or that we're seeing as a result of this wireless blanketing of many high school, university, and junior high school campuses across North America and the world. When we first talked about this topic a few weeks ago, you mentioned disruption of brainwave profiles. I remember a study coming out of Europe not too long ago that showed that cell phone usage, for example, has a residual effect on the brainwave profile of children in particular. But can you comment a little bit on some of the learning ability issues and cognitive deficits that we may be seeing due to wireless exposure 24 hours a day?
Yes, Alfred. The fundamental mechanism here is the disruption of intercellular communication. The information-carrying radio waves cause the cell membrane to close down so that active transport channels are not permeable, and you have the cell becoming nutrient deficient, energy deficient, and the cells are not able to talk to surrounding cells. Now, if you take a closer look at that mechanism, that means that nerve cells, for example, are not able to talk to each other the way that they're supposed to be, and that has a direct impact on cognition, our ability to learn, young people's ability to learn, young people's ability to focus. And indeed, there are now a number of studies that have been done in laboratory animals that show that these information-carrying radio waves indeed impact the ability to learn, the ability to retain information. And interestingly, there are now studies that show that behavioral problems in children in schools are related to Wi-Fi. Meaning that you have not only cognition problems, but also disciplinary problems and other issues that are a direct result of the synapses not working the way they should in these young people. And that is where we are so concerned, because we're looking at a fundamental disruption of physiologic process. But when it comes to young people in school, we are talking about the future of our society, and we already know that with young people, they are more susceptible to the types of damage that we know come from the information-carrying radio waves. And the reason for that is simple, that up until about the age of 18 to 20, biological tissues, cells, are differentiating more than they are proliferating. In other words, they are changing, exposing a lot of DNA more than they are growing. That's why if you look at a picture of yourself, for example, when you were 12 years old, and compare it to a picture when you're 14 years old, you'll see a difference in the profile, a difference in the way the person looks. And that is because the cells are differentiating. They're changing as the child goes through his or her maturation process. And when you have cells that are differentiating more than they're proliferating, that means there's more exposed DNA. That means there's more opportunity for interference with DNA repair, and that is what actually puts these young people at far greater risk of health effects, learning problems, sleep disorders, behavioral disorders, all the way to autism, higher risk across the board. And that is why it is a tragedy in the making, with schools all around the world bringing in Wi-Fi and actually convincing the parents that this is an advance, that this is something that is good. A school with Wi-Fi is better than a school without Wi-Fi, and it is absolutely a tragedy.
Well, it's very interesting, Dr. Carlo, that when listening to these different conditions that you're pointing out and the different kind of domino effects that we're seeing, that internationally this has really received a lot of exposure already and a lot of discussion. For example, in Great Britain, Professor Laurie Chalice says that the whole mobile phone and wireless industry could turn out to be the cigarette of the 21st century. I mean, how poignant is that? Professor Lee Salford of London University is deeply worried about Wi-Fi's additional electrosmog. And in Austria, my home country, the Medical Association is lobbying against the deployment of Wi-Fi in schools because the authorities of the province of Salzburg, for example, have already advised schools not to install it, and they're now considering an entire ban. Dr. Gerd Oberfeld, Salzburg's head of environmental health and medicine, says that the Wi-Fi is dangerous to sensitive people, and the number of people in the danger are both growing. So it's very interesting to see that countries, especially in Central Europe, have really picked up on this topic already, and I remember reading recently that a Canadian university has taken a stance against this already, and they've basically banned Wi-Fi access from the university campus. Now, the question that I had for you was, knowing that we're exposed to so many stressors already, I mean, there is air pollution, there is water pollution, there is toxicity in food, there's a tremendous amount of stress already on us. Would you say that electropollution, being one of those spokes on the wheel, or the Wi-Fi access that we all on one hand enjoy, but on the other hand is that additional stressor, that kind of may tip the scales for us from a stress perspective and from a human toxicity perspective, that is what puts us over the edge? Is that possible?
Well, Alfred, I think it's worse than that. Because, you see, all of those other stressors, all of those environmental exposures, we're able to develop compensations for those. Our immune system is able to respond to them, and our nervous system is able to respond to them. But what we have here with the Wi-Fi and the damage from the information-carrying radio waves is that our immune system becomes compromised. So the information carrying radio waves, the Wi-Fi type of exposure, is more serious than one of the spokes in the wheel, because it makes these young children more susceptible to all of those other